Welcome back. Remember us? Ultimate Hockey Show, Michael Dale Red Petty. After a bye week last week because I was under the weather, feeling better than I was last week.
When was the last show? Was the last show November 27th, Monday?
2 weeks ago, yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
So we have a lot to discuss.
Yeah.
We have a lot to potentially rant about. We have a lot to dissect over the next 57 minutes. As we have our regular Monday ritual, the Ultimate Hockey Show. I'm Michael Dale, joined by Rick Petty. And you can decipher who's who by the name bar. Michael talking Rick to the left. So
Michael talking Rick
how it is on my screen. How have you been, Red? Sorry for last week. They're not feeling too great. We had a rescheduled date, which also fell through. And then now we take the old bye week, which I guess is acceptable considering the players take one too.
Yeah, that's okay. Listen, life happens, and sometimes there are illnesses and there are unplanned for things that get sidetracked, and it is what it is, right? So I'm just happy that you're feeling better, and I'm feeling pretty good. So and you know what it really means too? What's actually nice is when you have an extra week off or when you don't do a show for a week, you got a lot more to talk about, right? So
Yeah.
we don't have to go to the bottom of the barrel in terms of subject matter. We can do like a hot take on the top 5 really hot things that have happened over the last few weeks. So
I mean, Rick, we need to speak about the event of the last 21 hours and the panic that has suddenly ensued in Jets Nation. Good evening, Rob. Thank you for joining us. Your comment has reached my panel. So if you have a comment just like Rob, you can leave it in the comments on whichever social media platform you're watching. I'm just going to make sure that I get that other banner up. There you go. Which tells you that you should leave a comment and interact with us. Be like Rob. Rob leaves a comment. Rob engages with us. We encourage you to be like Rob. Anyway, that being said, I think we'd be remiss if we didn't talk about the elephant in the room. That is Kyle Connor suffering a significant, what appears to be significant knee injury as a result of a knee-on-knee hit in yesterday's game against the Anaheim Ducks, courtesy of Ryan Strome. I hate to sound fired up already, but I've been waiting for this moment to discuss this with you.
Okay.
The NHL has said no further discipline. They believe that Ryan Strome, according to sources with Winnipeg Free Press's Mike McIntyre, dug his skate into the ice and did no deteriorating motion, and I'm paraphrasing, to result in the knee-on-knee collision, i.e., they deem it was accidental. Sorry, Rhett, I'm just not buying it right now.
Have you seen the replay?
I have, yep.
Okay, I haven't watched it since last night. Like I was just trying to absorb the the play, right? In terms of how it happened. And I know they gave 100 different angles and like the different camera angles. And to see that one angle from the other end of the ice, right? Like from the other goalie or from Hellebuck's perspective, kind of zoomed in, how he hits the knee and then he kind of flings and does almost a 360 with his leg, his right leg swinging around and over at top.
Yeah.
It's pretty dramatic. But yeah, it's it's an interesting. I chatted with a friend at work today, and he's a ref. He's refed junior games. He used to back in the day. Now he doesn't do it. He's a little bit older. Now he just does local games in local leagues. But he got as high as junior and then AHL, and he was on the track to heading to the NHL. He probably would have gotten there, but he had some situations of life that forced him to make some other decisions. So, but which
It
is
happens.
sometimes, but yeah. But anyway, but he's very knowledgeable at hockey. He's played, but he's knowledgeable about reffing. And I asked him this question, sort of like what we're talking about, because he asked me, "Hey, did you watch the game last night?" I said, "Yeah." I said, "I got a question for you." And I said, it's hard for, okay, how can I phrase this? Like, the game is fast. The refs, they have 2 linesmen and 2 refs. And what he told me is that usually what happens is, depending upon if you're, the back referee or the front referee, so the guy behind the net versus the guy at the blue line or on the other side of the blue line, right? You've got, the 2 guys, and what they do is they kind of rotate that way. They go back and forth, and then the linesmen on the sides. And the refs, depending upon which end it's in, one ref is just watching the puck and the
Right.
player, so watching the puck action, and the other ref is watching the action in front of the net.
Mhm.
And so the linesmen are kind of watching everything, right, for high sticks, and because they can make those calls, or if the puck gets thrown over the glass.
Major penalty, stuff
Yeah,
like that.
exactly. Or if it's a delay of game. And then in the neutral zone, it's sort of a mixed bag. The guys are, because one guy's skating from behind the net up, and the other guy's skating from the blue line into his own zone and behind the net, and so on. So they're kind of transferring over in the neutral zone. They're kind of all seeing everything. But in the zone, one guy's looking at the puck carrier, sort of what's happening around the puck. One guy's looking what's happening in front of the net. And if it happens to be the puck is in front of the net, well, then you have a pair of eyes, or you have a set of eyes from the front and the back having a look at that. So I just said to him, I said, how is it, or how do you guys determine? Because to me, it's a funny thing. Like, the game is so fast, and we could see it in instant replay and see the little shift of weight this way and that way, but it happens in a split second. If a guy is coming at Kyle Connor, so let's say it's Ryan Strome, and he sees Kyle Connor cut to the net, because that's what I mean. He cut to the net with the puck. And Ryan Strome says, "I'm going to lay this guy out." And he gets in his trolley tracks, and he puts his skates down in the ruts, and he goes skating straight for Connor. And Connor's, he's doing his dance, and he's very slick, and he's trying to avoid the hit. He doesn't want to take a straight hit in the chest or, in the shoulder. So what he does is he tries to shift his weight, and he moves out of the way, but he reacts a second too slow. And as opposed to just accepting the hit and getting knocked off the puck and maybe getting crushed, maybe getting the wind knocked out of you, whatever, he tries to avoid it. And Ryan Strome has his skates in those tracks. He doesn't shift his weight. He doesn't shift his knee or anything. And Kyle Connor, in essence, he can't get out of the way completely. And so his knee hits Ryan Strome's knee, gets flung in the air. He gets an injury. In my mind, that's not a penalty. And it's not even a dirty play. It's nothing. It's Kyle Connor is the one that initiates the injury, if you will, because he is the one avoiding the hit that he should take. He's trying to avoid it. Ryan Strome is making no shift, maybe shifting his upper body, but his legs have not moved. His knees have not moved.
Right.
They're in the trolley tracks. To me, I know, even though Connor's on the ice, what's going to happen 99 times out of 100 if that happens is they're going to call a major penalty, and they're going to throw the guy out of the game 5 minutes because the guy's injured. But it's wrong. And I asked my friend that, and he said, it is. He says, we should be able to tell. And he says, you think, oh, it's so fast. We can see if that guy has shifted his hip or shifted his knee, versus the other guys that would do this. Let's say that Ryan Strome comes along, and right as Kyle Connor shifts to avoid the hit, and Strome realizes, oh, I'm going to miss him. Strome throws his leg out or his knee out, right? And takes it out of the trolley tracks and out of the straight line, and initiates further contact with Kyle Connor that could have been avoided if he wouldn't have moved out of his rut, so to speak. That's completely on Ryan Strome. That's a dirty play. That's 5 in a game, and that could be a 5 game or a 10 game or whatever you want suspension. And so my friend was sort of saying, it's hard. You're right, Rick. We tend to always, if we're not sure, we tend to err on the side of the injury and of the guy getting hurt, even though we know sometimes he may have initiated that actual injury by not staying down and not shifting and getting popped, as opposed to trying to move, and then he gets his knee caught. But But here's how I was going to end my point, though.
Yeah.
It's my friend who's a ref. He looked at it. He's the same as me. He's got the PVR. He went back 3 or 4 times, looked at it from all the different angles. And what he told me, if he was on the ice and what he saw Strome do, Strome moved his knee. He said Strome shifted his legs when he saw that Connor in that split second was moving. He moved his legs.
That was my next question.
Yeah.
Is the onus not on Strome to see that he's coming and sort of back off or minimize impact?
Well, no, because Strome is just trying to hit him, but Strome should stay in his railroad tracks and hit him. And if he completely misses him, he looks like a fool and he missed him. But that's the problem, is these guys, they want to make the big hit, right? So they're lining this guy up, and a shifty guy like Connor or McDavid or even Ehlers or these guys or Bedard, they can shift, they can spin so easily out of those hits. And then guys are like, oh, I'm going to miss him completely. And then you look like a fool. So that's where they throw out the knee at the last second, because they want to see if they can catch him with something. It's dirty. It shouldn't be done, but it is what it is. But what I found interesting is my friend said when he looked at it, he saw it live, and then he wasn't sure because you're seeing it from the camera angle, not down on ice level. Right? But then when he saw all the different angles on ice level and everything else, he said, Rick, I would have called that a penalty. And to me, he didn't stay in his trolley tracks. He moved. Well, he may have stayed in his trolley tracks, but he shifted his weight and he moved his knee in a way that caused Connor to get clipped. Whereas if he would have stayed straight up in his knees, and
they probably passed each other, or
they would have passed each other very closely. Exactly. So I found that very interesting because he's a ref. He looks at this all the time. So,
yeah, listen, in the moment, I was very angry. Listen, I'm a fan as much as you and I sit and talk about this stuff on a weekly basis. Yeah. And when my leading scorer and when my team MVP for the most part, and when my team leader in goals goes down, I'm going to have a reaction. It's just natural.
Yep.
However, my sentiment on the play has sort of calmed down as time has gone on.
Okay.
Do I think it's a major penalty? Depends who the official is, and he had to make the call within that split second. Is it suspendable? Yesterday, I thought it was. Today, it's just a really, really bad play. And it's interesting to me that a player that prides himself on staying healthy would have that kind of a decision and put himself in that kind of jeopardy. Because if you look at a lot of the players that, play 80 games, 78 games, 81 games, 82 games, I don't want to say there's a science to staying healthy, but a lot of it is not putting yourself in vulnerable positions.
True, but you still play your game. And that's where I think you're right, is guys like Bedard, McDavid, Connor, Ehlers, they're going to take these injuries because they're shifty. And you know what, Michael, there's a lot of things that Connor does. I agree with you. The way he plays and how shifty is, he avoids a lot of contact.
Yeah.
There are guys that are lining him up and he spins out of plays, or he kind of rolls out of a hit and he gets banged, but he doesn't get crushed against the boards. And that's all a testament to Kyle Connor that will prolong his career, that will prolong his strength and his.
He's been healthy reasonably up until this point.
Correct. But I'm saying it's inevitable. It's a fast game. And if a guy is going to do something dirty, it's hard to avoid it. The same as look at what happened to Velarde by Lizotte.
Yeah.
Velarde played with him for 3 years. They're friends. Like, they're on each other's phones. They're on their, they have their contact information in their phones. They were buddies. They played a team. And he got interviewed a few weeks back, right before he came back. And he was brutal. And he said, listen, I like Lizotte. He was a teammate of mine for 3 years. He says, but it's dirty. And he says, that's the way he plays. Now, he says, And now he said, like, did he do it on purpose to injure
Mhm.
me? No, he says he wouldn't do that to knowingly to injure me, but he came behind me with that knee on in the back of the knee that so that the only option I had was to twist backwards and twist my knee out like that. Now, did he know that? No, but the play started or was initiated by a hit that's kind of dirty, hitting a guy from behind back of the knee. 99 times out of 100, nothing happens. The guy just falls down or he falls over a little bit and he loses the puck. That's how you knock the puck off a guy and away you go. But in this case, he hit him. He kind of fell backwards on Lizotte. His skate was caught underneath him and the whole knee turned and twisted around. So, he says, did he mean to injure me? No. Was it dirty? Yeah. Is that how he plays? Yeah. So you got some guys that are like that. What's going to be interesting is when the Jets play LA on Wednesday. I want to see Lizotte, if Lizotte and Velarde are ever on the ice together, if they start to chirp or something goes on. I could see.
Listen, something is going to happen on Wednesday night in that game.
You think so, eh?
And something is going to happen the next time Winnipeg and Anaheim meet.
Well, it happened already, though, because Scheifele went right at it. And
credit to Mark Scheifele. I don't think he should be fighting, but sometimes things need to happen.
I know. But listen, you know what the upside is, though, is that if this had happened, let's say last year even or 2 years ago, I would have been like, wow, that's really tough. And it is tough, whatever he's gone for, if it's a month, if it's 2 months. I just hope it isn't the whole season. I hope it's not complete reconstruction surgery because that would be really hard on the Jets and on Kyle Connor. That's a really hard injury to come back from. And he's fast. So that's part of his thing is being fast and being able to skate. That's his game. So if he can't skate as fast, that's really going to hurt him. But that being said, the Jets have a lot of depth. And when you think about what they can do now by sliding, they can slide Velarde up to the top line with Scheifele and Ehlers. They can slide Iafallo up to the second line with Perfetti and Nemestikov. You leave the third line alone with Lowry, Niederreiter, and Appleton. And then the fourth line becomes again Gustafsson, Barron, and Janssen Falby, who I think deserves to be in the lineup. He had a super game against Colorado. He was the difference in that game in the second or third period where he set up Adam Lowry to score that first goal. And he was flying all over the place and putting pressure on the puck. So I'm just saying the Jets will suffer a little bit, maybe on that finish side. But you know what? With Hellebuyck and net, you don't need to score 10 goals to win. Play good defense, win a lot of games, 3-0.
Well, I don't know if you saw the stat. It was 16 straight games where the Jets have allowed 3 or fewer goals.
Yeah. So if you allow only 2 goals, that means you only have to score 3 to win. And they could score 3 even without Kyle Connor in the lineup.
Jets have the best record since, November the 7th? At 16-4 in their last 20. What else have you seen from the Jets? Like Kyle Connor injury aside, good news is they got Vladislav Nemestikov back yesterday. So to me, you can kind of put Aslo Janssen Fialbi, I think, back on that fourth line. Then you could maybe put Iafallo in Kyle Connor's spot. That's kind of what my thinking is.
No. Velarde's going to go up to the first line and Iafallo.
Okay, that works too. But what have you seen from the Jets outside? Like, I know if we would have done this show last Monday or last week, we would have been talking about a 3-game losing streak. In that sort of before this 4-game win streak here, but suddenly come up again.
Yeah.
But to me, Rick, like, what was it, January, early January, mid-January last year where the Jets were in first place in their division, such as they are now, and we were ready to anoint them all kinds of things, some of this fan base. Like, to me, and I don't know how you see this, and we did have a discussion about this. The Jets' record to me this year has more substance than the record at this time last year or even early January. From a standpoint that the style of game that they're playing, to me, is a lot more sustainable. And it's not this fire wagon, win 6-4, 7-5, 5-3. They're playing a lot more defensive, 3-1, 4-2, games like that. I just think this style of game is much more sustainable than anything that happened sort of the last two seasons when the team went into the second half swoon that everybody's probably fearing is going to come.
I don't think so. Michael, last year's that you can't compare it. It's a different team. It's a different makeup.
No, I know that. And that's why I'm saying I think this is a much more sustainable brand of hockey this year than anything we've seen in the past.
I agree. They're deeper. And you know what? I think actually the longer this goes on, it'd be interesting to get some feedback maybe from the listeners too on this. But
Yep.
I think the longer this season goes, and I realized like last year, there was something wrong with the team chemistry. There was something wrong with the makeup. There was no captain. And I think Wheeler was there, and even though he wasn't he was not the same player that he was 5 years earlier. He was no longer the captain, but he was the de facto captain. And guys would always and he had a microphone in the dressing room. And then you have Pierre-Luc Dubois. So you have two guys that play first and second line. And Wheeler, he doesn't actually deserve to be on either one of those lines, but he is there by default because he's been there all along. But he should have been playing in the fourth line all last year because he's not good enough. He's not fast enough. He's not strong enough. He's not quick enough. And he was playing on the first power play, which was a mistake too. And then the Dubois was, Mr. I want to play today and I don't want to play tomorrow and whatever. And so I think they struggled with their team chemistry, with whatever you want to call it, their mojo in the locker room. Now they have a captain, Adam Lowry. Everybody likes him. Everybody respects him. He has everybody's ear when he says something, and he's willing to, to support it when he goes on the ice, and he calls everybody out and makes sure everybody's in the team. Apparently they have really good chemistry on the team. Really good. Everybody likes each other. Everybody looks out for each other. Even when guys aren't in the lineup, they encourage the other guys. Like there's nothing snarky and kind of this Wheeler thing with Laine that we heard about, and then Wheeler and Scheifele relative to everybody else with their little clique. I just think it's better. And so because of that, I think, to answer your question, I think the Jets will not have the stumble. They may fall off a little bit. Okay, they're really hot right now. They may come back.
But it was a prolonged 2-7-1 run that was the undoing last year and almost causing them to miss the playoffs.
Yeah.
I don't see a prolonged 2-7-1 run in this group.
No, I don't think so. They could go 500 they could go 5-4-1 or 5-5 over 10 games. They haven't done it all year. But I'm just saying they could. But
maybe.
That's okay. If you're 8 or 10 or 15 games over 500, then to go 5-5 is okay because you still end up 15 games over 500, right? So, or whatever it is. But right now, I think they're 16-8-2, right? Isn't that their record?
Yep. Yeah, 16-8-2.
So as that, so they played 26 games. Okay, so they're
and they have the NHL's best record in the last 20.
Yeah. 16-8-2, and that's roughly 1/3 of the season, a little bit less than 1/3. That's 78 games if you would spread that out. So yes, it's a little bit less than 1/3.
Yeah.
So I'm just saying they're in fairly good shape. The injury to Connor, whatever length it is, it'll be hard. But what's nice is you got a Velarde who's back, and he's just coming into his own. He scored his first goal as a Jet. Yeah. I agree. Some of the comments here.
They're
well balanced.
I'm going to dissect this. We have more foot soldiers this year and players willing to take up for one another. Fair comment.
Yeah.
Has anybody heard how Connor is? We've already discussed it. We expect an update tomorrow. The Jets were off today.
Yep.
Last report I have from Winnipeg Free Press writer Mike McIntyre, who is on the ground at SAP Center in San Jose, said that Connor was due for MRI today. The results of which probably known tonight. Listen, I don't think he plays in the next 2 weeks. I don't think he plays in the next month. I think you're looking at 4 to 8 weeks as a realistic target.
Yeah.
With the worst case scenario being reconstructive surgery done for the next 6 to 8 months.
But I just want to put this out there. I have nothing that says one way or another.
Right.
Okay, but I wanted to put this out there, and I don't know if anybody else noticed. My friend who's the referee who's seen a lot of these injuries and seen guys run knee to knee. If you watch the replay, what oftentimes happens is when there's knee on knee, the guy that's getting hit, right, or the guy that gets injured, his knee is in ice. And his foot has nowhere, his skate has nowhere to go, his knee has nowhere to go. So the knee takes the full blunt because the skate is in the rut. And so the knee actually hyperextends. So as opposed to the knee bending like this, it inverts, right? It almost goes like your leg, which looks so unnatural. Right. And all those ligaments get torn or get yanked like that.
Right, and that's a lot of what
finish my point. Kyle Connor, if you watched it, especially the one where it was from Hellebuck's point of view, where he spins in the air, the knee hits, but the knee, he's already lifting the knee in the air, trying to avoid the knee hitting him. So the skate or the leg is just in the air. And I think that, and so the knee never hyperextends. It never bends the opposite way. And it just pops around. And so my friend at work, who's a ref, says, Rick, it could be bad, but he says by the same token, the fact that it never hyperextended and whatever, he wasn't in the rut, he was in the air when he spun around, and he let even the knee kind of swing away, so the knee didn't even take all the absorption of the hit because the way he allowed it to spin his whole body around. He thinks it's not as bad as we're all thinking it is. He thinks it's going to be strained ligaments and whatever that is, like 2
to 4 weeks, like the Velarde.
4 to 6 weeks or 6 to 8 weeks or whatever. But he says he might be wrong because you're not live. But he's just saying what he saw on video. He says it may not be as bad as we're all thinking it is. But hey, I'm just putting it out there.
Here's a question for you. Cole Perfetti has had a renaissance this year. Scoring, assists, and this is over the last 2 weeks as a whole, not necessarily the last game or two. What is contributing in your mind to Cole Perfetti's success?
He's playing with good players.
Is it that simple?
Yeah. Well, that's a huge part of it. You know why I say that is because think about in the past, think about all the times that they brought rookies in and brought guys in and they play on the fourth line. I remember that for the first 10 years with Claude Noel there, and then even Maurice at the beginning. The young guys says, my veterans got to play on the first 3 lines, even when there's Wheeler who does nothing, and he's a slug, and he's 35 or 36 years old. But all the rookies get the rookie that's selected in the first round overall. He plays with a few guys that are career minor leaguers. You say, why doesn't that guy score? Yeah, it's because look who he's playing with, and that's not to say anything bad about him. I'm not in the NHL. I'm not saying there's nothing wrong with Morgan Barron or Janssen Falby. I mean, they're good hockey players for what they do, but Perfetti's a guy that needs to be around guys that can see the puck as well as he is, can see the ice as well as he is, can get open, because Perfetti's a shooter, but he's also a passer, and he needs to be with good players. That's why playing with Iafallo and Nemestikov and Velarde, that's good for Perfetti. He should be on the first or second line. That's where he needs to play. But I don't think it's a renaissance for him. I think he trained in the offseason. I heard he added about 15 to 20 pounds of mass. I don't know how much of it's muscle, probably a lot of it. Yeah. But he's a little guy. He's got to be strong on the puck because he's not huge in terms of height. He's got to have strong legs and a strong core to be able to still hang on to the puck when he's in the corners and when he's trying to come out of the corners with a puck and whatever, because he's only 6 foot, 5'11", whatever, 190 pounds, 195 pounds. But anyway, he is such a talented player. Do you know how many guys that can do stuff like it? When he was able to touch that puck to deflect it for that goal, skating by the net, you know, it's hard enough to deflect the puck just standing and the puck's coming and you deflect it. Now you're skating by perpendicular to the shot and the puck is coming to you, coming past you as you're skating by, and you're dragging the stick in the air and you hit it like that as the shot is coming sideways before going to the net. It's incredible. There's not many guys that can do that. And so to me, that's who he is. He's a first round draft pick. He's a scorer. He's a talented guy. He's going to be in this lineup for a long time, as long as he stays healthy, but he needs to play with good players. You cannot put him out there, even on the third line, playing with Lowry and
Appleton,
Niederreiter or Appleton. No, he needs to be look how well he's played with Nemestikov. But Nemestikov is good. He's shifty with the puck. He sees the ice well. That's exactly how Perfetti is. That's exactly how Ehlers are. They need certain guys to play with. And I'm glad they're not putting Perfetti on the fourth line. Oh, he's got to earn his stripes. He's a rookie or he's a young player. Nonsense. He should be playing with good players. So, but anyway, that's.
Anything else stand out about the Jets in the last 2 weeks that you'd like to address?
Well, I agree with you. Well, I don't know what I want to hear what you think about the Jets playing defense. I am stunned at how well they are following this system, whatever the system is. Like, they do not give the other team a lot in terms of, you know how it used to be in the past, and maybe I'll get your comment, how it used to be. We always talked about the high risk chances that they would always
high danger
right in the slot, wide open guys shooting the puck, multiple shots, get a rebound, shoot it again, hits off of Hellebuck's pads and comes right back out to the guy, bangs it again, and nobody takes the guy down or nobody wraps him up. This year, I don't know if you notice, they will let shots come in. That's fine. But, Hellebuck sees them. They're all from the outside. They come. Hellebuck either swallows them up. They hit his chest. No rebounds. Hellebuck shoves them into the corner. A lot of times the Jets will just play this kind of a system. They're in their shell. They keep the other team on the outside. Okay, you want to take wrist shots from 40 feet? Knock yourself out. We'll allow the shot to hit our goalie. He'll steer it into the corner, or we'll push it in the corner. You want to keep working. You keep chewing on it. Eventually, we'll get it, and we'll knock it out, and we'll change lines. And I think that system, whatever that is, whatever they call that, the Rick bonus system or the Scarter Neal system, whatever, it's working because exactly to your point. Like, I'm just looking at the last 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Yeah, they have not allowed more than 3 goals in either a win or a loss since November the 2nd against LA or against the Vegas.
And so that was probably their worst 2 games of the season right there.
Well, that one they lost 5-2, but then like before that, they lost a couple of times in overtime to the Rangers and to Montreal. But I'm just saying, since they lost in Vegas on November the 2nd, they have not allowed in either a win or a loss more than 3 goals. So whatever that is. So I'm saying that's really good. You can win. Well, like you're seeing, you can win a lot of games if you don't let the other team score more than 2, maybe 3 goals. So Hellebuck's playing well.
And
I really like what they're doing.
Rich, do you have the scores? Do you have the scores on your sheet there?
Do I have what?
The scores?
Yep.
Have the Jets lost a game this year scoring 4 or more goals?
Scoring 4 or more? Well, they've only lost, 8 times? Well, I guess including overtime, it would be 10. But have they scored 4 goals and still lost? Nope. 1.
Yeah,
2,
see, because 4 seems to be that magic number, right? They're like 10-0 or something when scoring 4 or more goals.
Yeah.
Something like that. I saw that stat out there. I just wanted to see if you could back it up with your magic little piece of paper that has every little score on there. Even Brossoit played well in the last game.
Very well.
Against Carolina.
Because he'd been kind of all year long. And then in that game, he was the difference for them winning. That was against Was that against Carolina or against Chicago? It was Carolina. Yeah.
There's the Carolina game. He stopped
Yep.
42.
Yep. And they won 2-1. It was a grinder, but yeah.
Yeah. Speaking of which, just to touch on other National Hockey League topics, the Carolina Hurricanes go 0-4 on their Western Canada trip, losing in Winnipeg, Edmonton, Calgary, and Vancouver, which is causing Rob Brendamore to be very, very cranky.
They're not getting consistent goaltending. They're not getting good goaltending. They're just not getting enough timely saves. And yeah, it's like, who do they got there? They have Ferranta, and then that's right, because Frederik Andersen is injured.
Shetkov guy.
You're right, but Anderson is injured. He's their number one.
Yeah, it's Peter Shetkov, I think, that young kid.
Right, but fine, but they're missing Frederik Andersen.
Yeah, they're missing Frederik Andersen.
There you go. He's a number one goalie. It'd be like Hellebuck. I mean, if you lost Hellebuck, okay, Brossoit could come in. He played well sometimes, whatever, but he's not a number one, or at least, he's not a number one here. But anyway, it's hard. Carolina, they're a good hockey team. Like, to me, that they lost 4 straight on the road in those games, it's not their team doesn't score enough. Like, that's the problem, but they're not getting consistent enough net minding overall.
What do we make of the Department of Player Safety having to be very busy this weekend?
With what?
With lots of incidents. Arden Zub getting cross-checked by David Perron. Perron did an in-person hearing, which enabled the NHL to suspend him more than 5 games. We had the Columbus melee. Columbus and Florida yesterday. DeBranson jumping somebody.
Yep.
Getting 24 minutes worth of penalties. What do we make of this? We've had 2 coaches fired, the latest of which is Dean Iverson, which I don't even think we've talked about yet.
Yeah, we did. No, we talked about him in.
Okay, yeah, maybe that was the tail end of our last show there.
Yep.
But what do we make of this? Because last year we weren't really talking a whole lot about, suspensions and match penalties and fights, really. I saw something today where fights are up, suspensions are up from last year. 2 coaches have already been fired. Is everybody feeling a little pressure? And as such, the tempers get a little bit sort of agitated.
I don't. It's hockey, Michael. It's controlled. You got to control your anger, but it's controlled aggression, right? You got to do it with between the whistles and within the rule book, and otherwise they let you. There's not many games other than football and hockey where you're allowed to hammer another guy, like to cream somebody, right? And so guys, and then the guys are working, and you have a game plan. The other team has a game plan. And your plans come against each other, and there's that friction, right? So it makes for great, compelling viewing and so on. But I don't think there's anything unique to this year versus any other year. Coaches are going to get fired every year. There's teams that surprise in terms of way better than we thought they would be, like a Vancouver, especially. Even the Jets you could throw into that category. Maybe you could throw in there, maybe
Arizona.
You could throw Detroit in there, maybe. There's a few teams. But then you've got some teams that have not played as well, that have surprised like a New Jersey, like an Edmonton to start the season.
Although they've turned the corner lately.
But Edmonton or Calgary is kind of meandering, or like in this case, a Carolina, right? So I'm just saying, like, it makes for compelling hockey, and there's always going to be some teams that think that changing something in the middle of the year is the way to do it, and so they do it. I don't think it's a great idea, but I get why people, because you can't, like, eventually if you just keep losing with a certain coach, like, eventually starts happening is fans don't buy tickets. And that's when you start
And
seeing
that's when the owner
goes
says
from
we need to do
15,000 to 13 to 11, then there's a whole bunch of seats on ticketsale.com or whatever, and they're being sold for 5% of face value. When I'm the general manager or the president of hockey operations, I say, Houston, we've got a problem. So
yeah, and you know what? You even or Kansas City, we have a problem catching footballs and staying on side.
oh my God.
But that's
Don't get sidetracked on NFL because I'm going to go
I know.
I Cowboys for 15
I
minutes.
just had a lot of discussion with Kansas City Chiefs fans today that suddenly can't handle things being called against them. But that's a discussion for another day. There's a couple of things I wanted to mention.
Yes, sir.
And then you can kind of touch on what if anything but kind of comes to mind. Two teams I wanted to kind of specifically draw your attention to. And they're both in the Western Conference, both of which have underachieved from what I had them as expectation-wise. One of them is the Anaheim Ducks. They're 1-9 in their last 10, including last night's loss to the Winnipeg Jets.
Mm-hmm.
Are we surprised the Anaheim Ducks are where they are? The other one, kind of in that same boat, the Seattle Kraken. Lost 8 in a row. Suddenly can't score. Starting goalie hurt. Maybe last year was a mirage.
Wasn't a mirage, but we talked about this. Look how many guys that Seattle has lost from last year. I mean, their goalie that injured, Susie signs as a free agent. They lost. I remember reading it somewhere. They lost 6 guys that were major contributors. I think 2 defensemen, excuse me, and 4 forwards out of their top 3 lines or top, maybe top 3 lines. I'm saying it has an impact on your team. And I just think Seattle, I predicted it. I told you, remember at the beginning of the year, you were all surprised. And I said, I picked Minnesota and Seattle to not be a playoff team. And you said, what? Seattle, blah, blah, blah. I said, never mind, Seattle, Minnesota, blah, blah. You were all shocked about Minnesota. I said, they've lost guys. You can't lose. Like with the Jets, when they lost Sherratt and Bufflin and Trouba all within a year, that's your top 3 defensemen, potentially, besides at the time was Josh Morrissey, and Josh Morrissey was not the defenseman he is now. So because he's progressed since then. But I'm saying for sure you lost 3 of your top 4. You don't think that's going to impact the team? Yes, it is. So I'm just saying these teams, even though they have fantastic records from last year, they're doing, actually, in my mind, maybe I want to hear from you, but I think Seattle and Minnesota are exactly who I thought they would be. They're exactly where I thought, below the playoff line and struggling. And in this case, one coach fired, and I don't know what the status is on the guy in Seattle. That's Dave Hansel, right? Dave Hansel.
That's all. Yeah, the former UND coach.
Yeah, he used to coach at Philadelphia, I think, back a few years back. But
what do you think about Anaheim?
Well, we saw the team yesterday. They got a lot of injuries, eh? Zegras was out of the lineup.
Yeah.
McTavish was out of the lineup.
Yeah. Well, that's the equivalent of losing top-end Jets guys to an extent, but aren't quite top-end guys yet.
And they're young, right? I think Anaheim has a lot of really good draft picks. They've got really good guys in the system, plus a lot of picks coming up. They are like Ottawa, but I think they're like how can I say this? I think they're like a year, maybe 2 years, maybe a year and a half behind Ottawa. So whatever that the trajectory, is that the word you want to call it, trajectory or arc is, to be that rising team with young talent and heading into the playoffs and being a playoff team, whereas Ottawa's, I think, further on that arc than Anaheim is. But Ottawa on that arc has had a little bit of this, because I think
they're 11-11. Win one, lose one. Win one, lose one.
They haven't been consistent enough. And yet, Claude Giroux has been playing out of his mind. Talk about renaissance.
Yeah.
There's a guy, wow, in his late 30s, and he's playing incredible. Incredible. So, but anyway, but Anaheim, I just
what
think,
else jumps out that I'm not necessarily talking about in the last
well,
2 weeks that I gotta get the door here?
okay, sounds like somebody's working.
Sorry, I did not hear what you or anybody else was saying. The Jets this week will take on the back half of this trip.
Yep.
Sorry, I missed what you were saying, Rick, when I went to go shut the door.
No, I just well, no, you're asking about what other things stand out, and
Yeah.
yeah, you know what? A lot of there are teams that always is the case that underperform relative to what folks thought, and some that overperform. I'm still shocked. I watched that Vancouver game on Sunday where they hosted. I think that was, or on Saturday. Was that the
Carolina
final game for Carolina? Yeah. Vancouver, I cannot figure them out. They are, in essence, the same team as last year, but I think one thing is Pedersen is healthy. I think that's a big
Quinn
thing.
Hughes is out of his mind.
Quinn Hughes is healthy. He's developed. You finally have Tyler Myers playing on the third pairing, which is exactly where he should be at $5 or $6 million a year. That's fine. They brought in that Russian defenseman from Calgary to partner up with him. Zadorov, which is a nice third pairing. That's as good a third pairing. Big cats, big guys. They're both a defensively minded, big, long reach. But they're fast, Vancouver. They put so much pressure on the puck. They're shifty. Some of those guys, I never thought, what's Höglander? What is that guy? He's playing out of his mind. And then JT Miller. I mean, I don't know if you heard that on Saturday. He has now got the Canucks record for the fastest player to 40 points in a season, more than Marcus Naslund or any one of the Sedin twins or the Todd Bertuzzi or anybody. He got to 40 points in 25 games. That's incredible. I mean, so I just think Vancouver to me is such a surprise. And part of me can't figure it out. Like, why are they this good? I mean, they're playing the system. They have a very good coach in Rick Tocchet. I get that. But I think they're healthy. They're fast. They're talented. And they're not afraid and to challenge and to make mistakes. And they have a super netminder. Even if they let in a goal, they don't even care because they have so much firepower. They're just going to come back. It's going to be interesting. I don't know when the Jets play. I'm looking here at the schedule. I don't think the Jets play Vancouver until February. Yeah, they play.
They see the Canucks in the last game of the season. I know that.
Okay, yeah. They play them 3 times, 3 times in the year, twice in Vancouver, once in February, once in March, and then they play at home in April of the last game of the season. But I'm just saying, Vancouver, that's the team surprises me. And I get it, but I don't get it. And I'm just not sure if it's just a new coach and a new system. Like I said, it's like with the Jets, right?
Are they the benefactor of being in a weak division and just happen to be the second best team or third best team behind LA and Vegas?
But look what they did to Carolina. So,
and they beat Edmonton twice. Granted, that was early in the season, but
yeah, Vancouver's a good hockey team. Now, I agree. We had a comment here from one of the listeners. I think his name's Eric. Stuff happens all year long, right? And teams get injuries. Look at Velarde got injured the second game of the year. He was gone.
Yeah.
And he was, you could argue, was your first line right winger, maybe your second line centerman. Now he comes back, and now you have your first line left winger that's now going to be gone, right? It happens. Last year we lost Josh Morrissey the first game of the playoffs. Boom, he's gone. And he's a huge part of the Jets and from the back end. So I'm just saying, you can lose a guy. Like if Vancouver loses, let's say Quinn Hughes for 8 weeks, how do you think that's going to affect Vancouver? That'll have an impact. How are they if they lose Elias Pettersson there for 8 weeks? Like I'm just saying, stuff happens, and it's the teams that have a little bit of the the quality of their lineup. They've got a little bit more depth. They have a lot of pride, and they just keep going. The Jets were able to do that without Velarde, and that's all hat off to them. That's all on them. And now we're going to see what they're going to do without Kyle Connor for the next little while, whatever that ends up being. I guess we'll find out tomorrow. So that interests me. Is Vancouver shocking? What is another another one that surprises me is I still can't figure this out is Ovechkin. What's going on with Ovechkin? He can't score anymore. Has age finally caught up with him? Father time?
There's a line you used to use, which I mean, or you like to use in Father Time and Undefeated. We've heard that.
Yeah.
It's extremely interesting.
Yeah.
Because Washington had a great start to the season, but is now kind of cooled off a little bit, which has coincided with Ovechkin kind of as he goes, the team goes.
Yeah, but even at the beginning of the year when they were winning, it wasn't due to him scoring a goal a game or whatever. I think like they were all projecting, at this pace, he's going to be able to catch Wayne Gretzky in the next or after the next season because he's about 80, 90 goals behind. So they figure if he scores 40, 45 a year, he could maybe catch him at the start of the 2025 2026 season if he plays that long. Well, not at this pace because I think how many goals does he have this year? No, 4?
Yeah, I'm gonna look it up, but it's not a lot.
His pace has just dropped this year as compared to the last several years. So eventually that's one thing you just cannot you cannot know for sure how guys are going to be. Now Ovechkin, I would say this though, he is not the skater, right? So for him to be fast is not as important as for him to still have the strength and the ability to shoot the puck, and he hasn't lost that. I just think maybe he's not able to get into open space as much as he used to be able to with his speed because he's not as fast.
Here's the thing. Ovechkin has 5 goals.
Yeah.
Okay? He still leads the team in scoring with 16 points because he's got 11 assists.
5 goals. So his team has played roughly. So he's on pace to score less than 20 goals.
He's got 5 goals in
25 games.
14 plus 9 games.
23. Okay. So he's on pace to score less than 20 goals. At that pace, he's got to play 4 years, not 2, to catch Wayne Gretzky. Now if luck could change, he could get on a hot
unbelievable.
But I know.
But anyway, let's look ahead to the Jets this week.
Yep.
Interesting matchups at San Jose tomorrow, at LA Wednesday, home to
Colorado
on
Saturday.
And then we'll have to talk about next Monday show because the Montreal Canadiens are here on Monday.
That game is at 6:30, so we maybe have to do the show at 5:30 then.
5:30. Yeah, we'll discuss that.
Or at 6 for a half-hour show.
Yeah. No, it's
So do you think that
5:30? So that's the start of original 6th week.
Right.
Because Detroit and Boston are also in town.
And then on the road at Chicago right after that. Yeah, right before.
Yeah,
right
and then I believe that Chicago game is either before or right after Christmas.
Right after.
Right after, and then it's the home and home with mini.
Correct. Afternoon games.
I find it interesting, but we've hit December and we have yet to see. I don't think we played the Minnesota Wild yet, have we?
Nope.
So it's interesting how that works.
So do you know, is a Brossoit going to be playing against San Jose? Probably
don't know.
Likely. I would think so because that's a back-to-back, and I would think they want to have Hellebuck in against LA.
Yeah, well, they've started Hellebuck in the first game, Brossoit in the second, historically.
Yeah.
There was a debate. I forgot where I saw it over. Do you change it up now based on the matchup? I think if the Jets go 1-1-1 this week, that would be pretty sufficient.
Okay. Okay.
Winning the San Jose game tomorrow, pitching a point out of Colorado maybe, and losing to LA.
Okay.
Although LA's lost their last 2 games on the road, so now they're 11-2 on the road.
Okay.
Only 11-2 after winning their first 11 games on the road.
Yeah. I think 1-1-1 would be fair. I would probably even go with 2-1, but I'll go 1-1-1. I think
And of course, we hope for good news with Kyle Connor. We'll pass that along next Monday.
Yeah.
What do you think of? And this is just something that kind of popped into my head.
Yeah.
I think it was the Colorado game. Every forward had over 10 minutes of ice time for the Winnipeg Jets.
Yep.
And Colorado ran that McKinnon line out for basically the last 4 minutes and change, 2 shifts, I think.
And that's why they were exhausted and they couldn't catch Kyle Connor on that final goal.
The depth of the Winnipeg Jets really came through in that game. And I think it's a message to General Manager Chris McFarland and the Colorado Avalanche that if you have serious aspirations of winning the Stanley Cup again, which they should, when you have the team that you have, I think you need to get some depth scoring and hopefully get some people back. McKinnon can't be playing 28 minutes a night. I think the lowest Jets that I saw on that the highest Jets that I saw on that sheet was something like 22, 23 minutes.
And the lowest was 13 minutes and change. So
again, that's that happy medium, but you and I seem to be harping on.
That's what they need. The fourth line needs to play 12 to 14 minutes a game.
And Eric says, my abs also need a backup goalie. I would concur.
But it's hard. Where do you find a guy? I know we're just wrapping up, but you say, well, they have to find additional scoring, the general manager. Do you think that these are just guys like
there's
a guy that's sitting in the minors with Philadelphia, who Colorado's just going to call up the Philadelphia general manager and they're going to trade him over for a 3rd round draft pick, and this guy's going to come into the Colorado lineup and score 40 goals in the season? They don't exist. That's the problem. Those guys you got to bring from within. You got to promote.
And now Eric is making reference to the backup goalie, but the same is for goal scoring. 40 goal scorers don't grow on trees.
You got to develop them. You're not going to trade for them. That's just not possible, because you're going to have to trade away something fantastic to get something fantastic. So
today we got it yet.
We should wrap it up.
But we'll wrap it up. Winnipeg Jets in first place on December 11th. March it down.
Tied.
Well, they are in first place based on tiebreaker methods.
I know. I think because they played one less game, but they have the same
one less game and some other combination of things would put the Jets at number 1 for right now. But it's what you do after 82 games that counts.
Yep.
And I'm preparing myself for that inevitable second half slide, because that's what I've come to expect with this Jets team. You can't have anything nice. Just like if you're the Blue Jays, you can't have Shohei Ohtani. You got to go to the Dodgers.
That was the best thing that ever happened. That's nuts to sign that guy till he's 40 years old. He's breaking down already. Mark my words. You can write this, put this in the bank. He's 30. By the time that he's 33, 34, 4 years into this contract, he will not be an all-position player. He will be either hitting and fielding, or he will be throwing. And my guess is he won't be throwing anymore. He'll just be hitting.
Get this, Jeff Passan, ESPN just broke the story while we've been on the air.
Yeah.
Shohei Ohtani's salary for the next 10 years, only $2 million. $680 million of the contract has been deferred till after the contract.
Yeah, it's a nice retirement package.
But the Dodgers can build an even more competitive team, just like they don't need any more embarrassment of riches. But I said what I said. I'm bitter. I'm glad the Jays didn't sign that. That's an anchor contract. He's not going to be worth it. He's going to be dead wood
by the time he's 35 years old, if not sooner. The last
Yeah.
5 years of that contract will be wasted money. But that's fine.
And the only thing I will say about the Dodgers, just on the way out, because we got to go.
Yep.
You've had the best record for 11 years. You've won that division. You have one World Series to show for it in the last 11 playoff appearances. The 1 year you won the World Series, it wasn't even a full 162 game season. So I'm still waiting for you to crumble in the playoffs. It's like you and I can confer to this. The Dallas Cowboys with a nice pitch. We finally get something nice. We'll see if it lasts.
Okay.
We'll see. Anyway, we'll take the break. Actually, we'll wrap things up. Go Cowboys, go Jets, go Bombers, go Jays, go teams. Good night from Winnipeg. Boy said we're done. Red said we're done. I said we're done. Good night from Winnipeg, and we'll talk to you next Monday. Good night. Yes, Eric. Go Cowboys. And last I checked, just on the way out, your football team won 3-0 yesterday. Anyway, good night from Winnipeg. Thank you so much for watching.